making a donation to a nonprofit is a super generous act. And you want to make sure that your donors feel confident that their gifts are going to be used the way that they intended. But you also want to protect your nonprofit from a situation where donors want to give you something that you really don't want to receive. A contribution policy is a written statement that outlines what you will receive as a donation and the parameters of maybe restrictions that you'll take on your donations. So let's cover these two areas that you want to make sure are included in your nonprofit's contribution policy. The first area is, what will you receive? Well, I think cash is always king. Cash is welcome here. We'll talk about restrictions at the end of this video. Non-cash gifts, though, well, okay, this is where it depends. A few things to consider including in your policy. Gifts that are not cash or non-cash gifts that have a really easy way to determine their value and to convert to cash, those are also a really good thing to take. So this is, for example, stocks, mutual funds, some type of investment. Again, it's readily converted to cash. In your policy, you want to address what you'll do with it if you receive them. And most nonprofits, they have a policy that says we'll convert non-cash stock mutual fund investments to cash immediately. Or said another way, your nonprofit's not in the business of managing investments. It's probably best not to take the risk of gains and losses, rather to convert them to cash. Okay, the next step is, or the next area is real property. And it's a general umbrella of a lot of different things. Think, for example, like the donation of some land or a house or maybe an art collection. Lots of possibilities here in the property section. And really what you want to do is not necessarily write a policy that addresses every one of these things, although if you're getting a lot of them, you may need that. But maybe a general policy that says that you're going to have a process for evaluating them. Okay, here are some of the elements in the process. You want to say that you're going to evaluate if it's an asset that the nonprofit can use. So you're going to have a step for just saying, is this something that we even want or we can use? Then the next step is going to be, does this gift have some strings attached or some liabilities, some risks or obligations that the nonprofit's going to have to take on? Some examples in that area are property taxes or maybe maintenance fees, or maybe insurance. It has to carry insurance. And so you're going to want to look at and evaluate, okay, what's the potential upside? We're going to have some years of outflows to maintain something. And are we going to convert it to a program asset or are we going to convert it to cash? Does the math make sense? Another element of your evaluation process should be, how will you determine the value? So that nonprofit is receiving something and you're going to want to determine it at fair market value. So you care about value, but the donor is going to be looking for a tax deduction and they're going to have to define value. Now, nonprofits cannot define value to individuals. That's a matter they need to take up with their own tax advisor. But the more significant the asset gets, the more this conversation becomes important because you both want to know value. And sometimes you need that independent valuation done to determine it. Other times, you as a nonprofit may be able to make a good guess and they can make their own tax preparation calculations with their CPA and tax preparer. So, but nonetheless, valuation. Okay, so those are a little bit about the policy content. A couple of other things, maybe vehicle donations. I've got a post on that you can look at. Charitable remainder trust or donations of something that will happen when the individual passes. Again, typically, these same things can apply depending on what's inside of that charitable remainder trust or that bequest gift. So I think that those policies will need to maybe refer to those things. Now, the second area we want to talk about in our contribution policy is what donations, what restrictions will we accept? Now, this is really important because the IRS says that in order for it to be a real tax deductible contribution, the nonprofit has to retain full administrative control. So we want this, right, for two reasons. We don't want a situation where the donor's controlling their gift can become troublesome for us, but we also want to meet the definition of a contribution so that that individual can get their tax credit. So here's what I recommend succinctly: that you have a board approved policy about the type of restrictions you will receive. Let me say it this way. Pregnancy resource centers, they typically function best with just a few categories. The most ideal way to get gifts is unrestricted for all of us. So maybe in a pregnancy resource center, maybe there's two other categories. We'll take building or capital related gifts for future construction or current operations of the facility. And the second would be maybe medical services. Typically, that's a large part of a budget. And so restricted gifts in that area don't get you caught in the trouble spot. But the trouble spot is when someone's directing gifts to a very narrow part of your operations and you end up receiving more for that than what you need to operate it. Now you have to sit on money because you've got to honor its restriction, but you actually need it for something else. So that's why we want to be really clear about what restrictions we'll accept. Now, some examples as well is if you operate a benevolence program or a mission support program or maybe a tuition assistance program, those kinds of things where people tend to go, oh, so-and-so, I want them to receive this gift. Well, the IRS basis is anytime you put a donor and a nonprofit, or donor and a recipient, and you put the nonprofit in the middle, it doesn't change that it's a gift. And it can't make the contribution test because it's trying to pass through you. So we want to not be the middleman. And if people want to give gifts to people, encourage them to do that. But as a nonprofit, you need a policy. And I typically recommend a policy that says that how you'll handle earmarked gifts. And best practices would say that you only receive gifts you get full administrative control over, or maybe more specifically, that you'll only consider those earmarks for people as suggestions, and rather that you would honor using it in your benevolence program or missions program or your tuition assistance program, but that who receives it is going to go through the application process that the nonprofit has. All right, well, when you get this all wrapped together, you're going to want to post it on your website. You're going to want to make sure you communicate it with your donors, especially having it available when a gift comes in that doesn't seem to meet what you think fits within the parameters of what's good for your nonprofit and passes these rules and tests. If that happens, I find if you talk to the donor and you tell them where your need is and what your limitations are, they typically will make the adjustment with you. So don't be scared of it, but definitely use it to your advantage in just how you live this stuff out every day. All right, well, having a nonprofit CFO on your team, as you can tell, is incredibly helpful. There's so many unique aspects to this contribution policy conversation that I just want to make sure you know that that's what I'm available for. If you could use my help in that, by all means, please jump on my website. You can schedule a consult with me, or you can definitely jump on and schedule to receive tips like this in your inbox as often as you need them, but every week they'll be coming out. All right, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you get your contribution policy written and in play. It'll prevent a lot of headaches in the future.